You're scrolling through your bank app on a Tuesday night, and you already know what you're going to see. The rent cleared, the car payment cleared, the electric bill, the internet, the minimum payment on that credit card you swore you'd pay off last year. And now you're staring at a number that's supposed to last you until next Friday. You do the mental math. Groceries, gas, maybe that prescription you've been putting off. And you realize, again, that there's nothing left. No margin, no cushion, no room to breathe. If anything goes wrong, if your car needs a repair, if your kid gets sick, if your hours get cut, you're in trouble. And the worst part is, you're not doing anything wrong. You're working. You're showing up, you're trying, but somehow the math just doesn't work anymore. Here's the thing nobody tells you about escaping the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. It's not just about cutting expenses. You've probably already done that. You've canceled subscriptions, you've made coffee at home, you've said no to dinners out, and you're still stuck. Because the real problem isn't that you're spending too much. The real problem, for millions of Americans right now, is that there's a gap between what you earn and what life costs. And that gap isn't closing, it's widening. And no amount of budgeting can fix a math problem where the numbers on one side just aren't big enough. But here's where it gets interesting. Because right now, in 2025, there's a quiet revolution happening. Millions of people, regular people with regular jobs and regular lives, are figuring out how to add a second income stream, not by quitting their jobs, not by winning the lottery, not by starting some complicated business. They're doing it on the side, in the margins, in the hours between everything else. And some of them are changing their entire financial trajectory because of it. I've spent years thinking about money, about how it works, about what actually moves the needle for people who aren't starting from privilege. And what I keep coming back to is this. For most people stuck in the paycheck-to-paycheck trap, the fastest way out isn't cutting another $20 from your grocery budget. It's finding a way to add $200, $500, maybe $1,000 a month to what's coming in. That extra income doesn't just give you breathing room, it changes your psychology. It changes your options. It changes what's possible. So today, I want to walk you through 5 side hustles that real Americans are using right now to break the cycle. Not theoretical ideas, not get-rich-quick schemes, actual ways that people with full-time jobs, families, and limited time are generating real extra income in the current economy. And more importantly, I want to help you understand which one might actually work for your situation. If this kind of thinking about money resonates with you, consider subscribing. I make these videos to help people see their finances differently, to cut through the noise and focus on what actually matters. And if this one helps you, a like really does help more people find it. Let's start by being honest about where we actually are. According to recent surveys, somewhere between 50 and 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck right now. And that's not just people earning minimum wage. That includes households making 6 figures. The median household income in the US is somewhere around $75,000 to $80,000. And even at that level, people are struggling. Why? Because costs have exploded. Average rent in major metros has crossed $2,000 a month. The average new car payment is over $750. Childcare in many areas costs more than college tuition. Groceries are up 20–30% from just a few years ago. The math has changed, and wages haven't kept up. So when someone tells you to just budget better, to make a spreadsheet, to track your spending, they're not wrong, but they're also not seeing the full picture. You can't optimize your way out of a situation where your income doesn't cover your costs. At some point, you need more money coming in. And that's where the side hustle conversation becomes not a luxury, not a trend, but a genuine financial strategy. Now, I want to be clear about something. A side hustle isn't a magic solution. It requires time. It requires energy. It requires giving up something else, whether that's leisure time, sleep, or weekends. And not every side hustle is worth your time. Some pay so little that you'd be better off finding a way to negotiate a raise or cut a major expense. So as we go through these, I want you to think not just about what sounds interesting, but about what actually makes sense for your specific situation, your schedule, your skills, your location. Can you manage social media? Can you do basic bookkeeping? Can you make spreadsheets that don't look like a nightmare? Everyone's heard of driving for rideshare companies or delivering food, but here's what most people don't realize. The economics of this have actually gotten better in certain ways, even as some markets have become saturated. The key is understanding how to work it strategically. People who treat gig driving like a part-time job, who learn the peak hours, who understand which types of deliveries or rides pay best, who track their actual earnings after expenses, are often making $15 to $25 an hour in decent markets. In some high-demand areas during peak times, it can be higher. The flexibility is real. You can work 10 hours a week or 30. You can do it at 6 in the morning or 11 at night. And unlike most part-time jobs, you don't need permission to take a week off. But here's the catch, and this is crucial. You have to understand your real costs. Your car is depreciating. You're paying for gas, for maintenance, for insurance. The IRS lets you deduct around 67 cents per mile for business driving, and that number exists because that's roughly what it actually costs to operate a vehicle. So if you're earning $20 an hour but driving 30 miles to do it, your real earnings are quite a bit lower. The people who make this work track everything. They know their actual hourly rate after all expenses, and they focus on the opportunities that genuinely pay. The second side hustle that's grown massively is freelance services, and I'm talking specifically about skills you might not even realize are valuable. Can you write clearly? Can you edit photos? Can you manage social media? Can you do basic bookkeeping? Can you make spreadsheets that don't look like a nightmare? There are small businesses, startups, and busy professionals who will pay real money for these skills, and they're finding people through platforms that didn't exist 10 years ago. Freelancing has a learning curve. You have to figure out pricing, you have to learn to market yourself, you have to deal with clients who are sometimes difficult, but the ceiling is much higher than hourly gig work. I've seen people start doing freelance writing or virtual assistant work for $15 or $20 an hour, and within a year or two, raise their rates to $50, $75, even $100 an hour as they specialize and build a reputation. The data shows that over a third of the American workforce now does some form of freelance work, and many of them started as a side hustle while keeping their primary job. The third option, and this one often gets overlooked, is selling things. Not starting an e-commerce empire, just selling stuff you already have, stuff you find, or stuff you make. There's a reason reselling has exploded. People are buying used clothing on resale apps, used furniture on marketplace platforms, used electronics anywhere they can find them. And on the flip side, people are making real money finding underpriced items at thrift stores, garage sales, or estate sales and reselling them for a profit. This isn't glamorous. It requires hustle, knowledge of what sells, and a willingness to deal with logistics. But I've met people earning an extra $500 to $2,000 a month doing this part-time, working mostly from their phone in their garage. The barrier to entry is low. You can start with things you already own that you don't need. And it teaches you something valuable about how markets work, about pricing, about what people actually want to buy. The fourth side hustle is teaching or tutoring, and this has genuinely been transformed by technology. If you have knowledge in any academic subject, any professional skill, any language, any instrument, there are people who will pay you to teach them. Online tutoring platforms have made it possible to connect with students anywhere. The pay ranges widely, from $15 an hour on the low end to over $100 an hour for specialized test prep or professional skills. Parents are spending more than ever on tutoring and enrichment for their kids. Professionals are investing in learning new skills. And the ability to teach over video call means you don't need to be in a particular location. What makes tutoring powerful as a side hustle is that the skills transfer. The better you get at explaining things, the more you understand about your own expertise, the more that benefits your primary career too. It's one of the few side hustles that actively makes you better at other things. The fifth side hustle is one that takes more upfront work but can become genuinely passive over time, creating digital content or products. I'm talking about starting a YouTube channel, a podcast, a blog, an email newsletter, or creating something you can sell repeatedly without additional work. An online course, templates, ebooks, printables. The vast majority of people who try this don't make significant money. Let's be honest about that. But the ones who stick with it, who find a genuine niche, who create something people actually want, can build income streams that eventually run without their constant attention. This is a long game. Most people who succeed at content creation or digital products spend months or years building before they see meaningful income. But the math is different from trading hours for dollars. Once you've created something valuable, it can generate income while you sleep, while you're at your day job, while you're on vacation. And in a world where everyone's time is limited, that leverage matters. Now here's what I really want you to understand, because this is the part most people miss. The point of a side hustle isn't just the money. It's what the money enables psychologically. When you're truly broke, when there's no margin, your brain operates in survival mode. Behavioral economists have studied this extensively. Scarcity doesn't just stress you out. It actually reduces your cognitive bandwidth. It makes you worse at long-term thinking, worse at problem solving, more likely to make impulsive decisions. You're so focused on immediate survival that you can't think clearly about the future. You take the first option instead of the best option. You stay in bad jobs because you can't afford the gap between paychecks if you switch. You let opportunities pass because you can't take any risk, no matter how calculated. But when you have even a small cushion, when there's breathing room, everything changes. Research shows that having as little as $400 to $1,000 in accessible savings fundamentally shifts how people think and behave. And a side hustle that's generating $300, $500, $800 a month doesn't just add to your bank account. It changes your relationship with money entirely. You start seeing opportunities instead of just threats. You start thinking about what you could do instead of just what you have to survive. You negotiate differently because you're not desperate. You make better decisions because you have time to think. That psychological shift is worth far more than the dollars themselves. Let me give you some simple math to make this concrete. Say you start a side hustle, and after a few months of learning, you're consistently making $500 extra per month. That's $6,000 a year. After 3 years, if you've invested that money, even at conservative historical returns, you're looking at somewhere around $20,000. After 5 years, maybe $35,000 to $40,000. That's a down payment on a house in many markets. That's a financial cushion that changes what jobs you can take, what risks you can afford. And here's the compounding part that most people miss. That side hustle income doesn't have to stay at $500 a month. As you get better, as you learn what works, as you raise your rates or find better opportunities, it can grow. I've watched people go from a few $100s a month in side income to more than they make at their day job within 2 or 3 years. Not everyone, not even most people, but it happens far more often than you'd think, because once you prove to yourself that you can generate income outside of a traditional job, you start seeing possibilities everywhere. The real win isn't the money in your account, it's the identity shift. When you successfully build a side income, you prove to yourself that you're not trapped. You're not dependent on one employer, one paycheck, one set of circumstances. You have agency. You can affect your own financial life through your own actions. That belief, backed by evidence you created yourself, is transformational. But I have to be honest with you about the pitfalls, because this is where a lot of people mess up. The first trap is treating side hustle income as spending money. You work extra hours, you earn extra money, and then you spend it all on lifestyle upgrades. A nicer car, better clothes, dinners out. And suddenly you've traded your time for stuff instead of security. The people who actually change their financial lives with side income are the ones who direct most of it toward building a financial foundation first. Emergency fund. Paying off high-interest debt. Investing for the future. The lifestyle upgrades can come later, after you've built something stable. The second trap is burnout. You can't work 70 hours a week indefinitely. You need rest, you need relationships, you need health. The most sustainable approach is finding a side hustle that doesn't destroy you, that maybe even energizes you because it uses skills you enjoy or gives you autonomy you don't have at your day job. If your side hustle makes you miserable, it's probably not worth it, no matter what it pays. The third trap is opportunity cost blindness. Some side hustles pay so little that you'd be better off investing that time in advancing your primary career, learning new skills, or finding a higher paying main job. If you're earning $8 an hour doing something on the side, but you could use that time to get a certification that would increase your salary by $10,000 a year, the math favors the certification. Always think about what else you could do with your time. The fourth trap, and this one is insidious, is comparison. You'll see people on social media claiming they make $10,000 a month from their side hustle, passive income, money while they sleep. Most of that is exaggerated, fake, or leaves out massive context. Don't measure your progress against internet strangers. Measure it against where you were 6 months ago. If you're making $300 a month from something you started from nothing, that's real. That's progress. That matters. So what should you actually do? Let me give you a framework, not a prescription, because your situation is unique. First, be honest about your current reality. How much time do you actually have? What are your existing skills? What do you enjoy, or at least not hate? What does your local market look like? The best side hustle for someone with 10 hours a week to spare is different from someone with 30. The best option for someone in a major city is different from someone in a rural area. Second, start small and learn. Don't quit your job to pursue a side hustle. Don't invest money you can't afford to lose. Pick something with low barrier to entry and start doing it. You'll learn more in a month of actually doing something than in 6 months of researching and planning. Expect the first few months to be slow, possibly discouraging. That's normal. The people who succeed are the ones who push through that initial period. Third, track everything. Know what you're actually earning per hour after all expenses. Know where your time is going. Know what's working and what isn't. Treat this like a real financial activity, because that's what it is. Fourth, as you build, direct the money toward your financial foundation. Build that emergency fund first. Having even 3 to 6 months of expenses saved changes everything about how you interact with money. Then attack high-interest debt. Then start investing consistently, even if it's small amounts. Historical stock market returns over long periods have averaged somewhere around 7 to 10% annually. But those returns aren't guaranteed, and short-term volatility is real. Start anyway. Time in the market matters more than timing. Fifth, be patient but persistent. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a month and underestimate what they can accomplish in a year. The side hustle that feels like a small trickle today can become a real stream with consistency. But you have to keep going even when it's not exciting, even when progress feels slow. Here's what I want you to take away from this. The paycheck-to-paycheck trap is real, but it's not permanent. The math has gotten harder, the costs have risen, the pressure is intense. But you're not powerless. You have more options than you might think. The tools to build additional income streams are more accessible than they've ever been in human history. The knowledge is available. The platforms exist. The opportunities are there. What matters now is action. Not perfect action, not optimized action, just action. Pick something. Start. Learn. Adjust. Keep going. 6 months from now, you could have a real side income, real savings, real breathing room. Or you could be exactly where you are now. The only difference is what you decide to do. I genuinely believe that most people have far more ability to improve their financial lives than they realize. The system makes it hard, no question. But hard isn't impossible. And when you prove to yourself that you can build something, even something small, on your own terms, it changes how you see everything. If you're still watching at this point, you're serious about changing your situation. So let me ask you this. Which of these side hustles resonates most with where you are right now? Or if you've already started something, what's working? Drop it in the comments. I read them, and I learn from what you all shared just as much as you learn from these videos. Tell me where you're at, what you're trying, what questions you have, and if this helped you think about your finances differently, consider subscribing. I make these videos because I genuinely believe financial education should be free, accessible, and honest. No hype, no get-rich-quick nonsense, just real talk about how money actually works for regular people. Whatever you do, don't stay stuck. The way out exists. It takes work. It takes time. But it starts with a decision. Make that decision. Start today. Your future self will thank you.